Before we get started, just a quick note, spoiler alert.
And we are adults, and I will try very hard not to use adult language, but this is the warning.
Hello and welcome to Fright Bites. My name is Jennifer.
And I'm Sadina. Each episode, we will feature a short story or novella. You can read along with us by finding the full reading list posted on our website, lastlibraryontheleft.com, or our social media at LLOTL Podcast.
Today's Fright Bite, we're going to be talking about Witches of Lychford?
I think it's Lychford.
Lychford. Okay. So Witches of Lychford by Paul Cornell. It was published in 2015 on Tor.com. And you can find it in book form now. So this is the first in a series, and now we have to finish the series.
There's like 5, I think, in the series. I really wish that I had known that when I put it on the list, because I would have probably put all 5.
Yeah, we would have read all 5.
Mm-hmm.
We will read them. So the summary of the book is the villagers in the sleepy hamlet of Lychford are divided. A supermarket wants to build a major branch. Some welcome the employment opportunities while some object to the modernization of the local environment. Judith knows the truth that Lychford lies on the boundary between two worlds and that the destruction of the border will open wide the gateways to malevolent beings beyond imagination. And it's so good.
Girl, it was so good. I have a lot of notes on this one, mostly because I was just typing as I read, because it was really... I had lots of questions as I read. So first off, I really want to be Judith Mawson. I want to be the sort of crotchety old witch on the street who everybody kind of doesn't like, but also can't get rid of. So as I read, the very first thing I connected with was Lizzie, which was shocking because she's the priest. But I connected with her because Lizzie has moved back home after a traumatic event, and she struggled with her choice to move back home after a traumatic event. And I put my notes, because this is how I talk to myself when I write notes. It's just me talking to myself. Anyway, so just ignore this. I put, I really feel that on a deeply personal level.
That is so funny because that's so true.
Right? I was like all that regret and doubt when my mom passed away. And I was like, man, Houston, I'm never moving back to Houston. You'll never see me step footed back in Houston. I was just so mad at the city as a whole because it took my mom from me.
Yeah.
And then my sisters needed me and other reasons, like finances and blah blah blah. And so I wound up coming back to Houston. Then it's got that struggle to kind of come back after a traumatic event. Not that the traumatic event happened in our hometown, but that's really, I got it. Which is why my notes to myself were anyway, whatever.
That's awesome.
I also thought it was setting up to be another queer novella of ours, which happened to be quite a few of them. I was very pleasantly surprised. I got this weird feeling that Lizzie and Autumn were being kind of written in a queer lens, but I think maybe that's just a male writing a female friendship and not understanding that line, because I think it was really just the gap between faith and magic that was making things feel romantically entangled.
I could see that because, like you, I also thought that there was going to be a queer element, but I kept thinking, once you said there were more in the series, I was like, well, maybe he's setting it up for later.
Maybe.
But it could be just that he just doesn't understand the dynamic of a female friendship.
Yeah, I also kind of, as I read, I was really freaked out by Arthur, Judith's husband, because I can't tell in just the first book if he's whatever. So there was a part where, as I was reading, I was like, what the actual fuck is with Arthur? And then he's like jealous of Sunil. And then I wrote in all caps later, Arthur is dead? Or is he? And I was like, wait, but he's there, but he's not. But also, what? So like, is he haunting? It's later explained that Arthur is the consequences of a curse. And so I was like, so is he haunting her, or is he a creature that sought her out as part of the curse and is now
living with her?
Yeah. And everybody thinks he's dead because the human story lived its course, but this like ghoul or something is still there.
I just thought that she was very powerful in that she could see between the worlds. There was a thinner veil for her. But I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's right. She does see between the worlds, but Arthur felt more malicious. When you find out that he's the product of a curse, I feel like it becomes more malicious, like there's something else there. So Judith's son, Sean, the local constable, I wrote down that he's written as kind of bitter and that he just entertains his mother, which comes off making it seem like he thinks she's senile. The more I read, I was like, I think that he just resents that he couldn't be taught the craft.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I just thought that he was another entitled child that she did her best to raise, but once he became a grown-up, because you see it so often, these adult kids who kind of wash their parents away once they become adults, send them off to nursing homes and just out of sight, out of mind. I had that impression of him. But maybe that is true that he wanted to learn the craft, and because he couldn't, maybe he didn't have the talent.
Well, he's not a woman. There was a line in there. I was reading, his character, and I was like, wow, he's really trying to sell us on this idea that he is entitled and all those things that you were saying. I had this like niggling thing in the back of my mind where it was like, I just think he sounds so placating with her.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think there's a part of him that believes, but the resentment of not being taught the craft is what's creating that behavior in him. Judith, in some flashback or some description somewhere in the book, there's a discussion of why she couldn't teach her child and why she couldn't pass down her craft. And that's why when she passed it to Lizzie and Autumn, she was like, oh, great, I was finally able to pass it down.
I mean, maybe so. Maybe that's what it was with him. Maybe it was a combination of the two. I don't know. I just didn't really like the son too much. It kind of reminded me of... I don't know how to say this without hurting some feelings, but but people that believe one thing, but when they're out in public, because the majority believes something, they will agree with the majority.
Oh, fair weather.
Fair weather, yes. He's a fair weather person. I got vibes of that too.
I mean, that's absolutely fair. And I have no qualms about hurting people's feelings.
Yeah.
So when we first meet Dave Cummings, which is the representative of the big box store that's coming, I was like, wow, he's fundamentalist, he's extremist, he's shady too. I pegged him as magic right away, especially when he gave that stack of money to Lizzie and she felt no desire to pick it up. I was like, oh no, that's a contract. And there's something in her that's like, don't touch the contract.
Yeah. I didn't peg the magic right away because I don't know what I was reading, but I was like, oh, that's the devil. That's the devil right there. I mean, I was horribly wrong, but
I mean, maybe you're not, like maybe that is like the realm that he's from. He definitely had some old god energy about him.
Yeah.
The middleman for the old god energy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it could be. I did pick up on him being like a personification of corporations, the big corporations that are coming in and taking over small towns. And it's like, oh, this is a great personification of what's happening in many towns across the US where you're not relying on farms and there's this whole local movement, shop local, eat local, support local, and getting away from the big box chains and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good interpretation because I think the way that Judith described him was that the version of him that she could see was it was like a monster sticking its nose out the door trying to see into this world. And everything else behind it was something bigger. It could just be a projection of that greed. And so this is the other reason why I think that your demon and devil idea is also true, because when Jade, the marketing something from the big box corporation, when she made her contract with Dave Cummings, she kissed his ass.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a form of binding contract for crossroad demons and the devil. Like that's how you bind a contract with them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. That mythology is quite prolific, especially in like Christian mythology.
That's really interesting. I'm going to look it up.
And then my next note is I was really interested in Autumn's story because Autumn was interesting. She was very logical, very science oriented, but she ran the local magic shop and she thought she was insane. She thought she herself was insane, which was interesting. And then it turns out that she was spirited away, that she was taken by the Fey Prince, the Summer Lord, and that he was convinced that he really wanted her. So he pushed her into Summerland and kept her by influence, if not by force. And when she finally broke free and came back into our world, she couldn't reconcile that. I felt so bad for Autumn. I felt really bad for Autumn.
I did too. When her storyline unfolded, I got Labyrinth, Goblin King vibes, and I was like, I didn't pick up on it until now that her name is Autumn and he whisked her away to Summerland. And I'm like,
oh my God, Jennifer. Whoa, because if he's the Prince of Summerland, then he probably does think he's in love with Autumn.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not fully convinced. So their whole thing was really something to experience through the book, because the prince is convinced that he's in love with her, she's in love with him, she wanted it, and it sounds so typical of right? Of
So
men
typical
who,
of a man.
yeah, but typical of men that specifically groom or gaslight you. And I don't know. I didn't like him, but I think that towards the end, I was like, I think he actually believes his own. I don't know. I don't understand Fae mythology very well, but from what I do get, they don't actually love.
Right. Yeah. That is the minimum of knowledge I have of Fae lore, because I haven't dug too deep into it. But yeah, I don't know that they're capable of that type of emotion. But that
Not
was
on a
like
human level.
I mean, maybe it was just, it's just so narcissistic of him to be like, I believe that I love you just because I believe it, just talking to a narcissist. I don't know.
Yeah, that he's going to force it into reality and force her to come with him into this reality.
No thanks.
It's really weird. So reading about Finn, the Fae Prince of Summerland, obsessed with Autumn, that's just going to get me. That because I don't believe that Fae understand love in the way that humans understand love. I think that he's obsessed.
I agree. I think he's obsessed.
So one thing I really liked, it was not particularly subtle, I think, making Cummings out to be a craft user. They were there for the vote, voting against the corporation. And Judith or someone was like, oh, and he's making these weird symbols with his nervous shapes with his fingers because he thinks he'll lose. I was like, no, it's obviously conjuration.
He was obviously conjuring up something when he was doing that. I mean, I kind of thought Judith would get that almost instantaneously.
Right?
Yeah, because she's more astute than most people. So I thought she would get that a little bit quicker, because I got it pretty quick, and I assume she would too. Just because of the way, as he was talking, the way the room just changed and everyone was agreeing with him.
Yep. Oh my God. This was the book that I read, The Wasp at the Center of a Dark Universe.
Oh, it was?
Yes, because in my notes here, that's where I wrote. It freaked me out. I wrote in my notes, was Cummings harmed by the backlash of the spell work not working like a rebound? Why the comparison to a wasp at the center of a universe waiting to push in?
Oh my God. That's so weird. Where is it from?
Girl, I don't know. But I did not appreciate it.
I didn't either. I think I kind of overread it, to be honest. I think I just read past it because it didn't stick out to me. It stuck out to me like a sore thumb, and you know how the story goes, but not this one. That's so weird.
Yeah, no, I think you know how the story goes has messed me up so bad for the rest of my life that seeing it again in this, I remember reading it on the plane back from Seattle, and I was like, I hate that I'm seeing this again.
Yeah, that's so weird. I'm shocked because I feel like once we're done with our 31 days, I might kind of do a deep dive into that mythology as well, because what is it? This whole part with the vote, though, it took me into, I just felt like there were so many parallels to modern day politics. And
girl, did you get triggered? I got triggered.
I was so triggered. Politics has come a long way as far as like you're either on one side or the other. There's like no in between. And even when you're in between, you're really not in between, because I say that as someone who was always kind of in between, but I'm not even that anymore. Like I'm definitely one side. So it's just like I was so triggered whenever they got into any of the political stuff.
Me too.
So one of the bright spots for me was this gave me all the charming small town hocus pocus vibes. So I really liked that. It's the perfect book to read in the fall. One review I read during a nice fall lazy day. This is the book to pick up and then watch some witch movies afterwards. I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Just so good. I loved the three women, Judith, Autumn, and Lizzie. And I loved that even though they came from different backgrounds and
vastly different,
right? They were all very strong in their own ways, and I feel like they didn't even realize it until they got together, you know? So I really liked that. I kept thinking Judith was my grandma, my mom's mom. I was like, because she just knows stuff and she tells me stuff. Like one day she told me, she's like, I know that I'm right all the time. Okay. And she's like the matriarch of our family. She's the reason why I'm here, because she emigrated and stuff. Yeah, she's right all the time. You're right, grandma. My grandma. So one of the things I was telling Sadina in pre-production that I was like really kind of hooked on was the fact that there's always three witches mentioned. And I was like, why is it always three witches? Just couldn't understand why. And so I did a quick Google search and I came upon an article titled The Magic Number, Why Witches Come in Threes. And it was published on Tor.com and it's by the author, Paul Cornell. And he's talking about why he used three witches and the impact in literature. And he talks about the reference from the original Three Fates, or he even referenced the Holy Trinity, which that makes sense.
Oh.
Right? And so then I got to listing all the three witches that I could think of, and that were also mentioned in his article. There was the Three Witches of Macbeth, of course, the Fates, Charmed, Hocus Pocus, Witches of Eastwick, Witches of East End, The Chilling Adventures, and then I mentioned One to Sarita Gargoyles, the animated series had three witches in it.
Must be part of the Macbeth thing, because like I
Mhm.
don't remember that right off the top of my head, but I do remember the Scottish antagonist. That must be it.
Yeah, and so he referenced a couple of these features, but the biggest thing was that he thinks that it stems from the Holy Trinity. Another quick Google search said that the three witches are chaos and three dangers, and I didn't like that. Yeah, I just went around somewhere else. So,
You know, I'm surprised that he left out the mathematical theory that 3 is a perfect number, because the triangle is a perfect shape, the theory. That yeah, because it bears its weight.
Mhm.
Kind of like the Roman arches and stuff. It's
Mhm.
perfect because it bears weight. But the triangle there, I forget what mathematician it was, but there was a
Mhm.
mathematician who tried to prove that 3 is the perfect number.
I mean, it is, I guess.
I mean, it's one of my favorite numbers.
It's not mine, but I can see the significance of it. My favorite number is 2, if anyone's wondering. But yeah, I liked the idea of the three witches, and I just kept thinking, like, why are there 3? Always 3. It's always 3, with the exception of the craft as 4. But overall, I loved this book.
Me too. I really wish that I had done a better job of looking into this title to see that the other 4 were also available, because man, I need to finish this series.
Yeah, I mean, we'll finish it and we'll discuss it in a longer episode because it deserves a little bit longer than our little Fright Bites.
That's a solid point. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed it.
We sure did.
Yeah, I did. I really did. And man, I hope you're right. I hope it gets queer and it's
Me
not
too.
just like a man writing a female friendship.
If it does, I'm all for it. If it doesn't, then we just know where his brain was. He just didn't understand the true meaning behind a female friendship.
Yeah. We gotta go, guys, and we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. If you liked listening to us ramble on about horror, subscribe to our podcast and tell your friends. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at LLOTL Podcast.
Check out our website by going to lastlibraryontheleft.com. Be sure to visit our About Us page to discover our 2 truths and a lie. Or, if you'd like to send us an email, you can reach us at somethingwicked@lastlibraryontheleft.com.